So in order to summarize this process and to take a step back, this is the single one chart, the single one page out of all this presentation of 600 slides that you're going to suffer. If you remember this one page, then that's great. Don't worry about the fact that Rich is a guitar player and James Bond is the other moderator. This page is what you tattoo onto your firstborn child, and remember this, and then everything will be fine. So what we suggest is, on our process, is we have to work with the local community and the local stakeholders right from the outset. We research the site in as much detail as possible. So we look at the hydrology, what are the mangrove stresses, the local species, which you've just done as your homework, the salinity, the ecology and so on, but also the social issues. What social problems, say like land tenure, are in the way of either mangroves naturally restoring or would be inhibiting our restoration process. So it's as much social as it is biophysical. We would then also suggest go off and find a natural bit of mangrove and use that as a reference site. So if there's something that's healthy and natural, it is not being cut over and replanted, but a natural bit of mangrove, how big are the channels, how deep are the channels, what species growing there, what does the soil look like, what is the salinity that you could expect, etc., etc. So you have something to compare of when you've done your restoration, what your restoration site should look like when it's developed. So therefore, we should understand the changes and the problems that have affected your restoration site and what we need to change. We suggest that we map this because it's very good for transparency, discuss it with the local community. We're going to talk about objectives in the second half of this session, agree the objectives and plan, and then work out what to do. We then implement. So we might need to correct changes, particularly in hydrology, or improve the hydrology, or remove mangrove stresses, but also it could be social changes and social agreements. And then we want to monitor to see if what we are expecting is going back, the hydrology is working, the natural regeneration is starting, or amend and change if our intervention has not worked appropriately. And then we can plant if everything else is okay, but there's just not enough seeds and propagules coming into our restoration site. So this is our CBEMR process and what we were slowly working through over these 6 sessions. As opposed to what frequently happens, traditional restoration, or what normally happens or whatever, where a team would appear on a restoration site, build a nursery, or bring in some seedlings, buy some seedlings and plant them, without doing this research, without really understanding what the mangrove stresses are, and this often fails, unfortunately. So hopefully our CBEMR process is going to be successful. I would stress, again, as I've said before, even if you want to plant or you want to do some planting to, say, involve kids, you still have to go through this CBEMR process. We still have to mitigate our stresses. We still have to research the site and really understand what the issues are. Why have we lost the mangroves in the first place? We still have to work with the community and we have to agree our objectives, whether you want natural regeneration or whether you want restoration, or actually probably best a mixture of both, which is what that is. So that is the CBEMR process in a sort of nutshell. And so therefore, the order and the rationale of the workshop, I really hope that now you've seen the mangrove failures and now you've read that CBEMR process, I really hope that what we've covered makes a lot of sense. The benefits are a great way of linking the mangrove ecology and the structure, the shape, and so on. So if we have good hydrology, then the fish and the shrimp and the productivity should be improved and should be good. If we conserve existing mangrove and emphasize that outside the confines of the biofood project, then we make sure that all the ecosystem services are delivered appropriately. Now you understand the biology of it, think of the issues of things like salt beings of saturated soils and why they are difficult. I hope that that helps explain to you why all those mangrove failures failed, and the emphasis on CBEMR of the appropriate hydrology and drainage and the appropriate elevation height of the soil relative to sea level, relative to the tidal inundation, So the mangroves growing in the top half of the intertidal zone, hopefully the soil that we have is at that appropriate height, and then the mangroves can grow on that appropriate height. And hopefully you'll also see why the failures explain why planting is often unnecessary, because natural regeneration will do it, or the site has never been appropriate and we shouldn't be working on that site. And the CB part of this emphasizes the community participation, and I'm going to talk about community engagement after the break. So that